Brown's Pie Shop is a fantastic place to eat. As you can see, I'm the kind of gentleman who enjoys the odd pie from time to time. In fact, at football matches they sing a song about me. Anyway, Brown's Pie Shop has a number of people associated with the building. The plaque on the wall there celebrates Lawrence of Arabia. He stayed in the building while had a different use, was a lodging house. And when he was working with the RAF, he would come here, have a last night out and sleep his beer off in where that window is, which is now the kitchen window. We also have Gandalf, or we have Sir Ian McKellen, I should say, who's eating in there as well. He recommends the building and the food in there too. If you choose to dine there, there's a number of locations. The two restaurant rooms go to the back. Also the vaulted medieval basement underneath the, obviously, building itself. If you do choose to eat in the basement downstairs, try and avoid sitting with your back against the wall, because people have reported feeling ghostly fingers prodding them through the brickwork, which is rather unusual because there's no corridors or passageways around those walls, so you don't quite know who's trying to make themselves known. But the most famous story around Brown's Pie Shop centres around the head chef Mark. Mark had been working there for many, many years, and still works there today in fact. When he first began working, he would do what he would call his earlies. He would arrive at an hour or so before the rest of the staff were due to arrive. He would do some deep cleaning, some ordering, some vegetable preparation. The staff would arrive, tap on the door, he would let them in. That's how the day of business would begin. However, while he's in those dark, cold early mornings by himself, a sensation of paranoia starts to creep over him. As though someone's always watching him. There's strange sensations like the hairs on the back of his neck prickling up. And as he's walking around the building one morning by himself, he notices in the corner of his eye a 3-foot-tall figure disappear out of a doorway. He makes chase, doesn't find anyone. One day he's up in that kitchen window, rolling out some pastry for yet another delicious pie. He puts his favourite rolling pin down, all those nice water heated ones, you know the ones. And he goes to walk out the kitchen. He comes back a few seconds later to find the pastry still there, but the rolling pin has now vanished. They found it late that day downstairs in the basement, in the freezer next to the ice cream. So that night, after finishing work, Mark goes home and sits down and has a good think about this whole situation. You've got a 3-foot-tall figure, must be a child, mischievous, must be a boy. So he decides to come in the next morning and try a different tactic out. He walks in that door, locks the door behind him, takes a look around, making sure there's no one else around, takes a deep breath and goes, "Good morning, Humphrey. How are you?" He christens the boy Ghost Humphrey and continues this out loud conversation, talking to Humphrey about anything and everything he can think of. And slowly but surely, all the ghostly sensations went away. The feeling of paranoia just disappeared, and these little tricks and little games just stopped altogether. Now, of course, that year, the Lincoln Christmas market comes as it often does. Last year we had 600,000 people visit Lincoln. So it's their busiest weekend. Everyone arrives at the same time. And Mark doesn't feel too inclined to talk to someone that no one else knows about or has heard of. So for 3 whole days, Humphrey is absolutely ignored. Mark returns to work the following weekend by himself. He walks in that door at 7:30 AM, he locks the door behind him, leaving the keys in the lock as he always does, goes upstairs to the kitchen and begins chopping some carrots with a very sharp knife. When all of a sudden, he described hearing a loud noise like 2 large men had kicked the front door in off the hinges, splintering wood, smashing glass. Alerted and concerned, he ran downstairs into the reception area expecting to see all hell breaking loose. But the door was fine, the window's fine. The only thing that is missing is his keys. He realises, quite suddenly, he's now locked in the building all by himself. He looks in the second room, no keys in reception. In the very back rooms, he's just starting to panic. On the centre table is his bunch of keys spread out in a fan shape. He picks them up, slaps himself on the forehead, laughs out loud and says, "Humphrey." Now at that point he said he heard a very loud scraping noise that came from the floor above him. Grabbing his keys, he ran upstairs into the kitchen room once again, expecting to see somebody or something, but once again there was nothing to be seen. Then he realised the knife he'd been using to chop the carrots with was no longer on the chopping board where he left it. Mr. told Margaret the story all those years ago. He said, "Mags, the knife was sticking out of the floorboard just over there by its blade and it was wobbling like that. Someone had just thrown that knife. At that point my bottle left me." Mark turned on his heels to leave the room. As he ran towards the doorway, the metal box containing the fire blanket came off the wall, across the room and hit him between the shoulder blades, sending him skittering down those stairs. He ran to reception, keys in hand, plunged them into the lock, ran outside, and bang! Brown Wright, the rest of the staff who were waiting patiently for him to open up that morning. Now, of course, they took one look at him and they said, "Mark, you look like you've just seen a..." No, they wouldn't say that because that would really the entire story. What they actually said was, "Mark, are you okay? What's wrong?" He told them about Humphrey. He showed them the knife and the floorboards, and that morning they made a pact or a promise. Now, whoever goes in first thing in the morning always says, "Good morning, Humphrey," and everything seems to have calmed down. Or so we thought. The most recent addition to the story is only about 3 or 4 weeks old. Got to the end of the Ghost Walk, just around the corner there. Been a massive round of applause and huge tips. and this woman came over and she said, "Thank you very much for the Ghost Walk." I said, "That's no problem." I said, "Why in particular?" She said, "Well, the Brown's Pie Shop bit was my favourite bit." She said, "I was in there about 7 years ago with my husband, had a lovely meal, and I went to go and pay a visit to the ladies' toilets. As I walked towards the door, this young man ran in front of me and almost knocked me off my feet." Now, as you do in those situations, you always say, "Well, excuse me." And of course, he paid no notice and just carried on running. I went and paid a visit, sat down next to my husband after coming back and said to him, "Did you see that?" And he said, "See what?" "That young lad almost knocked me off my feet." And these are his words, once again, not mine. He said, "Have a look around, sweetheart. There are no children in the building." They double-checked with the management and he was quite right. There were no children in the building for that whole evening service. So if you do go to Brown's Pie Shop, just a quick tip of the hat to Humphrey. Often helps to have a not so disturbed meal while you're in there.